Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, I appreciate you being patient. Couple quick brief announcements, and then I'll turn it directly over to Kashub, the historian. Tonight, he's going to be speaking on the Hebrew language again, but he's going to be going a little bit more in-depth, a little bit more extensive of a lesson, some more of his research. Going to be explaining some of the hidden knowledge within the Hebrew language itself. So, just want to remind everybody, tomorrow night we will be live streaming the America on Trial, 100 Years of Lynchings Exposed. That event is taking place live in New York, featuring the mighty Hebrew, the tribal minister himself, Hellraiser, the Wu-Tang Clan affiliate and Sons of Man member, and also Priest Anyala of the Lions of Israel. All the information you need to know about that event is in a video upload on this channel. So without further ado, we've got the Hebrew scholar, the Hebrew author, Kashub, the historian, also known as BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH. You know him from his recent books. We'll touch on his book, his website, and all his information at the end of this presentation. But right now, I'm going to turn it over to the good brother Kashub, and we're going to get ready to start his presentation. So Kashub, good evening. Welcome, good brother. Please unmute your mic and introduce yourself to the family and let them know what you're going to be touching on tonight, sir.
Shalom, shalom. Can I be heard?
Loud and clear, good brother.
Shalom. Giving honor and praise unto the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. We're going to be going over a couple of things tonight concerning Hebrew culture, Hebraic understanding, and some of the things offhand may be disagreed by some and may be agreed by some. One of the things I like to sit there and state, if we go in Proverbs chapter 12, all right, Proverbs chapter 12, verse 1. And I like to say, and it reads as follows. This is called the concerning character of people, all right? Here's what we read. Proverbs 12:1. One who loves knowledge loves discipline, but he who hates rebuke is a bore. In other words, if you don't want to sit there and hear correction, there's something wrong with that kind of understanding. You know, so not that I'm perfect, but I don't mind somebody pulling my coattail, let me know, brother, this is correct, this is incorrect. And if I still feel the way that I feel, I can sit there and explain my position to you. That's what adults do. All right. So just want that to be noted for edification purposes, because there's some who might sit there and feel, okay, well, the brother doesn't like being questioned or asked questions. There's nothing wrong with asking anybody a question. But when you don't understand the point and premise from the beginning of it, that's a problem. So your question is kind of moot if you don't understand what one was talking about in the first place. So that's just something to be noted for edification purposes. What we're going to go over tonight is very extensive concerning the aspect of Hebrew, because certain things just has to be noted and understood. If you can't speak a thing, it cannot be a language, hands down. All right. So one of the things concerning Hebrew is notice that people will go to Zephaniah 3 verse 9. All right. And I want to read that portion. Zephaniah chapter 3 verse 9. All right. And it reads as follows, so we can gain an understanding concerning this kind of matter. For then I will turn to the peoples a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of Yah to serve him with one consent. So what this is talking about, when it says a pure language, that's talking about not having any false gods mentioned out of your mouth. That's what that's talking about. That's not saying that there won't be people in the future who speak Spanish, and there's some who speak Amharic, there's some who may be able to speak Ge'ez, and then there's some who speak in French. That's not what that's saying. What this is saying is correlating back to the book of Hosea chapter 2, if we will. All right, for edification purposes. It says the purpose in the people being turned to a pure language is so that way they can serve the Most High with one consent. So it's not because of somebody's pronunciation of a word, but it's more so due to the fact of people dealing in idols. So in the book of Hosea chapter 2, verse 18, it says this, and this here. And many King James Version is 2 verse 16, but it reads as follows. And it shall be at that day, saith the Most High, that they shall call me Ishi, and shall call me no more Baali. For I will take away the names of the Baalim out of her mouth, and they shall no more be mentioned by their name. So this is something to be noted for edification purposes. So when it says that the people will be turned back to the Most High and speaking a pure language, is talking about not delving with any idols. So that's something I wanted to point out for reason and purposes. We're going to start off, right, by going over reading something in the scriptures and then going into a prayer and then closing out that part at least, and then going into the actual teaching itself. All right, so let me get a mic check. Can I be heard clearly?
Loud and clear, good brother.
All right. I wanted to read this part right here. Baruch atah Yah Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakal binim tobim waratzah bedib arehim ha'emenanim be'emet Baruch atah Yah habokir batorah ub Moshe abdo ub Yisrael amo ubin be'eh ha'emet wazedek Anochi Yah Elohecha asher ho'zetika me'eretz Mitzrayim mi beit abadim lo hihyeh laka Elohim akerim al panai lo ta'aseh laka fesel wakal temuna asher bashamayim mima'al wa asher ba'aretz mitakat wa asher ba'mayim mitakat la'aretz lo tishtakawe lahem wa lo ta'abden ki ano ki Yah Elohecha el kwana pokwed avon abot al bani wa al shileshim wa al ribeim lasonai wa ose kesed la alafim la ohabai u shomre mitzvotai lo tisa et shem Yahweh Elohecha lashal kilo yenakwe Yahweh et asher nisa et shemo lashal shamor et yom hashabat lokwacho ka asher zalka Yahweh Elohecha sheshet yamin ta'abo wa asita kol malakteka wa yom hashbi'i shabbat la Yahweh Elohecha lo ta'ase kol malaka ata ubinka ubiteka wa abdeka wa amateka wa shorka wa kamorka wa ko behemteka wa gerka asher bish areka lema'an yanuak abdeka wa amatka kamoka wa zakarata ki ebed hayita ba eretz Mitzrayim wa yokziaka Yahweh Elohecha misham bayat kazakwa ubis roa netuya al king zawka Yahweh Elohecha lishmor et yom hashabbat kabet et abika we et imeka lema'an zawka Yahweh Elohecha lema'an ya'arikun yameka ulma'an yitab laka al ha'adama asher Yahweh Elohecha no ting laka lo tirzak lo tin af lo tigno lo ta'ane bare aka et shaw lo takmod eshet re'aka lo tit awe beit re'aka sadehu wa abdo wa amato wa shoro wa kamoro wa kor ashil re'aka Torah rabaya Elohim wa Elohei abotenu the pa'am hazeh Torah rabba lo ko debarim asha atana tatalanu tiyena iti al hal pa'am hazeh wa gam ke al nata azbe wa al nata azob kulanu naya Wagam kain melek ha'olam bebak washa. Tibarekna, wagam kain tirpana et bnei Yisrael. Wahoshana et bnei Yisrael. Wayatzelna et bnei Yisrael makol zarenu. Hallelujah. Amen. So that concludes that. And let me know when we could just start the presentation at this point.
Sure thing, Kashub. Let me screen share here. Pull up slide 1 of your presentation, good brother. and we'll be
Now,
ready
when
to
you do
rock.
that, that's going to take me off the screen, right?
I'm doing it now. Let me know. Let me know how you see.
I see Hebrew presentation, and I also see myself on, but I see myself on the bottom right-hand side.
Okay, so the audience only sees your PowerPoint right now, and if you want them to focus on you when you want to show a book or something, let me know. But for right now, the audience is seeing your PowerPoint in full screen, good brother.
Okay, so that's all that's being seen. All right. Hebrew presentation part 2, the breakdown, Shalom Lechem. The word shalom comes from the root word shalom, which means to be complete. Therefore, the word shalom itself means peace. Lakem, the lamed or the L sound in the beginning signifies two. Lakem, to you all. Shalom, giving honor and praise to Yah, the creator and the maker of heaven and earth. It is in due love and respect. It is in due love and respect of the Most High God that this presentation is presented. I do not claim to know everything, and I'm open to constructive criticism. The topics covered will be grammar, Yah, the topics covered will be grammar, El and Elohim. Is there more than one Yah? The reasons why vowels had to exist, and a part concerning the tribe of the Danites. The contact info will be stated at the end of the presentation. Next slide. El and Elohim, the Hebrew way of understanding this. Now, what we're looking at to the left-hand side, it says the Hebrew word El, and in English it says E-L, and then underneath says God. Then when we look into the right-hand side, it says the word Elohim. So these are just two different spellings of the same aspect to a certain extent. But during this presentation, I want to sit there and explain why we may see Elohim sometimes and why we may see El sometimes. All right, so let's go on. Elohim and Eloha. Now, Elohim is translated as God, and the word Eloha is also translated as the word God. You see that in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32. All right, when you see when it says they forsook God who redeemed them, that's the Hebrew word that's used there in that particular case. All right, so I just want to use that for edification purposes. Next slide, please. Now, what we're looking at right here is Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 in Hebrew explained. Now, we went over last time in the later part of that presentation done earlier in the week entitled Hebrew Presents Hebrew. This was also on the same channel and so forth and so on. But in it, part of it, I explained that the Hebrew with the vowels is not Yiddish. And that's something I wanted to sit there and point out for edification purposes. Now, looking and remembering that Hebrew is always read from the right to the left, we see this. BOREH-CREATOR bara Elohim et hashemayim wa et haaretz. Now, in the English, it says, in the beginning, God, he created the heavens and the earth. All right, so let's go on to the next slide, please. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, expound further. Bara Elohim. Those are two words that we saw in the last slide. All right, it says the point is that the Hebrew says Bara Elohim. Now, Bara, as noted in the book 201 Hebrew verbs by Hilkin on page 44, is the third person masculine singular in the case here, meaning he created. So this is something I want to be noted for edification purposes. All right. So when it says Bara Elohim, we're going to sit there and show, blessed be the Most High, that even though many people say, oh, Elohim is a plural word, the verb and the adjective always agrees with the noun in Hebrew. Therefore, the Hebrews knew themselves that though it's a quote unquote plural word, they know good and well by the vowel, pardon me, by the verb or the adjective with it, that Elohim is singular in connotation. So this is something I wanted to be pointed out for edification purposes. Next slide, please. Bara created, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 26. In the English, we read this: lift up your eyes on high and see who created these. He that bringeth out their host by number, he calleth them all by name, by the greatness of his might. And for that he is strong in power, not one faileth. Now, when we're looking at the right side, I kind of bold some words there. Now I'm gonna read it and then go over the bold type afterward. Se umerom enekem uru mi bara ele. Hamotzi Bamis Para Zeba'am. Lekulam Bashem Yikra. Merob Onim Wa'amit Ko'ak Ish Lo Nedar. So this is just something I wanted to point out for edification purposes. Now, the first line, remember Hebrew always going from right to left. So on the first line, we're able to sit there and see that the last word going from right to left on the first line is bara, which is bold type there and also underlined. Now, when you look at the bold type inside of the English, it says hath created, because hath created is the past tense, and it's the third person masculine singular. So it's not they created in Genesis 1 verse 1, it is he created, because Elohim is treated in a singular connotation, and we're going to explain why the Hebrews did that in that manner. And the word yikra also means he calleth. So that is also the third person masculine singular future tense aspect of it. So that's why I bold type that in the English and the Hebrew aspect there. As stated, this is coming from the Bible in Isaiah 40 verse 26. Next slide, please. BOREH-CREATOR, Isaiah chapter 42 verse 5. The Hebrew, it reads as this: Ko amar ha'el yod-he-wah-he, boreh ha-shamayim wa-no-tehem, rokwa ha'aret, wa-ze-ezaeha, no-tain neshama la'am, aleha wa-ruach lahol kimba. Now, in the English, we also see, as in the Hebrew, certain things are kind of bold typed. You understand? It says in the English here, this is coming from Isaiah 42 verse 5. Thus saith God the Lord, he that created the heavens and stretched them forth, he that spread forth the earth and that which cometh out of it, he that giveth bread unto the people upon it, and spirit to them that walk therein. So this is just something I wanted to sit there and have to be pointed out within this particular slide right here. All right, can I still be heard loud and clear? Cool?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. 1 second. So, Cain, shalom. So as we are able to see, this right here is dealing with he created, he calls, it's not they. So there is, to be understood, no such thing as more than one creator. All right, there's only one creator. And this is something I wanted to point out in this. Now, going back into this portion right here, it says, Kol Amar, thus saith, Ha'el, Yod-He-Wah-He, thus saith God the Lord. Now, Ha in Hebrew means the. El, as we went over before, means the word God. So therefore, Ha'el means the God. So what God is this talking about? It tells you right in the same verse. Yod-He-Wah-He, said by some as Yahweh, said by some as Yahweh, said by some as Yehovah, said by some as Yahuwah. But that's not really going to be the focus about how the pronunciation of that is said. The more so and more important aspect is understanding the monotheism of the culture of the nation of the Hebrews and the Israelites. You understand? And so this is something I wanted to point out for edification purposes. Ancient Israel understood the creator to be one, not a pantheon, not an Ennead. All right. So next slide, please. Isaiah chapter 43, verse 10 and verse 12, self-explanatory. Ye are my witnesses, saith Yah, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall any be after me. And in verse 12 of the same chapter, it says this: I have declared and I have saved, and I have announced, and there was no strange God among you. Therefore ye are my witnesses, saith the Most High, and I am Elohim, or and I am God. Now in the Hebrew of verse 10, we see the following for edification purposes. Atem edai ne'um yod-he-wah-he. You are my witnesses. You all are my witnesses. Ne'um Yah, saith the Most High. Wa abdi asher bakarti, and my servant. Ebed me servant. Abdi means my servant. Asher, which bakarti I have chosen. So it's not so much that Israel picked a God. It's more so the God Yod-He-Wah-He picked the nation of Israel. All right, so let that be noted. Lema'an tid'u wata'aminu li, that ye may know and believe to me. Watabinu, and understand. Ki anihu, for I am he. So this is something I wanted to point out. It says ki anihu, ki because ani, I, or I am. And then the next word, if you're looking on the Hebrew side, it's the third line, fourth word. All right. It says ki anihu, because I am he. It doesn't say ki ani anaknu, because I am we, ki anaknu otanu, because I am us. The Most High, speaking of himself, deals in the aspect of the pronouns, the nouns, the verbs, and the adjective in a singular fashion. Now, one of the things to point out is the word he. In the English, it's said in Hebrew as who. All right, just like you might have seen sometimes some people's name as Yirmiyahu, Yeshayahu, Eliyahu. All right, the who part at the end means he or he is. So this is something I wanted to point out for edification purposes. All right. For instance, there was a prophet in the Bible translated in the English letters as Jehu. In the Hebrew, it said as Yahu. Yahu meaning Yahu, meaning the Most High is he. Yah is he. He is Yah. Not saying that that person who walked on earth is the Most High, but saying the Most High is he. He is it. That is the one. That is the source. That is the point in this particular aspect. So there was no pantheon of Elohim, in that Yahweh or Yahweh became one of them that Israel chose. That kind of teaching is madness. You understand? So these are certain things to just let it be noted for edification purposes. Now, dealing back in this part right here, when it says ki anihu, for I am he. Now, who means he or he is, as stated. Under the pronoun list. Ani is I, ata is you or you are, masculine. At is you or you are, feminine. Who is he or he is, and he means she or she is. So that right there on the pronoun list, I, you, masculine, you, feminine, he, and she, is said just as that in Hebrew. Ani, ata, at, who, and he. Now, in this portion here in Isaiah 42, verse 8, the Most High, speaking of himself, says, ki ani hu, because I am he, not because I am us. So the Most High is not speaking of himself as in a pantheon of gods. All right, so that kind of teaching, that kind of needs to be shut down. Then we go into the Hebrew of Isaiah 43, verse 12. All right. I know ki. He got ti. Waho shati. Wahish mati. Wa ain ba kemzar. Wa atem eda ne yod he wahe. Wa ani el. Okay, so let this be noted and understood that the Most High, in the end of verse 12 of Isaiah 43, it says, and I am God. Now in the Hebrew, it says, Wa'ani El. El is understood, as you said from earlier, meaning God. Now, mind you, in Hebrew, the word El comes from the root word Ayil, which means to be mighty or to be a power. Now, in the SOS event, which was also on the same Brother Basim's channel, we went over that in its extension about Deuteronomy 28, verse 32, when it says no might in the power of your hand, or no strength in the power of your hand. The Hebrew word that's used there is El, because El means might or power, translated loosely as the word God. So this is something I just wanted to be noted for edification purposes. All right, so if you can, go to the next slide, please. So far, we are seeing that the Most High is not a dual. All right? Okay, let's go on. Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 11. Let us explain. Thus you shall say unto them, the gods that have not made the heavens and the earth, these shall perish from the earth and from under these heavens. Now, this right here, this portion of Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 11, is actually, though written in Hebrew letters, is not Hebrew. It's actually Aramaic. This is one of the few parts in the Old Testament or in the Tanakh that actually have it to where this is actually written inside of Hebrew letters, but the linguistics aspect of it is Aramaic. Aramaic and Hebrew, as pointed out in SOS event, is related one to another, because the Aramean people were related to the children of Israel. How we know that is because the wives of Jacob were Aramean, because his father-in-law Laban was from Padan Aram. Aram is the Arameans. Later on in time, the book of Josephus tells you that the people of the Arameans were called Syrians. All right, so I just want this to be noted for edification purposes. Can I still be heard loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thus you shall say unto them, the gods that have not made the heavens and the earth, these shall perish from the earth and from us. King na Tim run lahom Elahaya di Shemaya wa Arqua la Abdo Yebedu me Ara Umin Tekot Shemaya Elah. So what that is right there, that's basically the Aramaic way of saying what that says in the English. And what I put over there, brothers and sisters, elders included, on the right-hand side is something that the Most High did. Many people might have been familiar with what they call the touchdown Jesus that was over in Ohio. The Most High struck it with lightning. And this is how you can compare the scriptures to show the reality of it. Thus you shall say unto them, the gods that have not made the heavens and the earth, these shall perish from the earth and from under these heavens. So these idols that people have made and put upon the earth, that's not the creator, the Most High, as shown right here. This is an actual thing that happened back in 2010 or 2009. You can look it up online. Touchdown Jesus gets struck with lightning in Ohio. That's the work of the Most High God. So we can take it back to the scriptures and show you still what the Most High has been doing and has done. The gods of the nations are nothing. You cannot compare, as will should be shown later, the Most High to the gods of these people. All right, so next slide, please. The topic, Psalms chapter 82, verse 1 and verse 6. Now, in the Hebrew, we see this. Elohim nezah ba'adat el, b'kwadeb Elohim yishpot. That's verse 1. The English says, as we see there, God standeth in the congregation of God. In the midst of the judges, he judgeth. So let me try to sit there and explain how this particular aspect works in the Hebrew in Psalms 82, verse 1. Elohim, the first word we see there, translated as the word God, right? Then it says NEETZAHB. That's the noon, the zadeh, and the bet. That's the second letter, the top part of it, second letter, reading it from the right to the left. Elohim NEETZAHB be'adat el. Elohim, God, standeth in the congregation of God. But Kwadeb Elohim yishpot. In the congregation or in the of the judges, he judges. So we already able to see that the translators already knew that there is God, Elohim, and then there's the word Elohim also translated as the word judges. All right, but in the Hebrew, it's showing the exact same thing. But when we're dealing with the children of Israel, the Israelites knew that Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, Ha-El, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, I was shown in the PowerPoint before, in Isaiah chapter 42, verse 5, they know that that Elohim or El of Yah, that is Yah, is their own particular power. And as we see in Jeremiah, as pointed out, the gods, the Elohim that have not created the heavens and the earth and from under the heavens. So there was no pantheon of gods in the heavens that came together and one of them became Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. Actually incorrect. I need you to go back to the former slide. So this right, thank you, brother. So this is just something to be noted for edification purposes. Now, what we're going to go into now is in verse 6. The Hebrew said the following. Ani amorati Elohim atem ubne elyon kulken. Now, in the English, it says this, and this was pointed out by many, such as the 5%ers. It says, I said, ye are godlike beings, and all of you sons of the Most High. So right there is telling you that even the sons of the Most High, speaking about human beings, humans in this particular case, are still Elohim. It's still mighty ones, it's still judges, and it's still, if you like to use the terminology, gods. But the El Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the creator of the heavens and the earth, is the one that Israel is supposed to be worshiping. That's the distinction. There's only one Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. There are many that can say, oh, this is El, this is El, this is Elohim, this is Elohim. But there's only one Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. And that one is the true El, the true Elohim. You understand? And so when we're going to sit there and explain certain things like this, in a situation that happened with Elijah the prophet and the prophets of Baal. He said, if Baal be Elohim, then follow him. And if BOREH-CREATOR be Elohim, then follow him. And as it says there, the people did not answer a word, because you had some who maybe want to sit there and say, well, this Baal or this idol or this statue or this Lord or this master that was created by the sons of men by their own hands and named by the sons of men by their own hands, and so forth and so on. Well, we're going to sit there and say that that's a God too. And that's where Israel began to fall, even after the death of Solomon, when Jeroboam of the northern tribes decided to say, okay, let's make a molten calf, and I'm going to put one there, because remember, a bull is strong, a calf is a baby bull, and that must be strong too. And the Most High is noted for being strong. So this is a representation of what is strong. So therefore, we have no problem worshiping that golden calf. But the Most High is saying, as we know in his commandments, you shall not make unto the engraved image. Thou shalt not bow down to them nor serve them. So that's something to be noted and understood. All right. So next slide. Thank you. The topic, Exodus chapter 22, verse 27. All right. It says, Elohim lo tequalel, when nasi ba'amkan lo ta'or. All right. Now, the English says, thou shalt not revile God, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Now, many versions, such as maybe like the King James or even the Masoretic text, right? It says, you shall not revile the judges, nor curse a ruler of your people. Now, if we are understanding that Elohim is translated as judges, mighty ones, gods, and God, we have to know context and sentence structure, which one is being spoken of in that particular case. All right. So in this particular part, when we sit up there and getting into it, remember the portion before translated Elohim in the book of Psalms as judges. So when it says in many versions, you should not revile the judges or curse the judges, what that is talking about is the people that hold rank and that are mighty in your presence. Those Elohim in that particular case, that you are not supposed to curse. You don't curse a prince among your people, a priest among your people. The judges that Deuteronomy 17 speaks of are considered part of that Elohim. But as we know, as we read in Psalms, or we read further, you understand? In Psalms chapter 82, verse 7, I said, you are gods and know ye sons of the Most High. What? You shall die like a man and fall like one of the what? The princes. So even though human beings periodically are called judges or gods and translated from the Hebrew word Elohim, we know that the Israelites understood that, yeah, even though a man is called that, that man eventually will pass away. God, on the other hand, doesn't die. So that's important to be noted and understood. All right. Next slide, please. All right, here we go. The NEETZAHB matter. Numbers chapter 22, verse 22. Hear loud and clear, because I want to sit there and get it may seem like nitty-gritty.
I hear you fine.
All right, thank you. Now, the NEETZAHB matter, Numbers 22, verse 22, in the English says this: and God's anger was kindled because he went. This is speaking about what happened with Balaam, all right, when he was hired by Balak to curse the children of Israel. And God's anger was kindled because he went. And the angel of the Most High placed himself in the way for an adversary against him. Now he was riding upon his ass, and his two servants were with him. Now, the Hebrew, it says this: Vayikar af Elohim, ki holek hu, Vayit yatzeb malak yod-heh-wah-heh, V'derek l'satan lo, Vehu rokeb al atono, Ushne na'arayo imo. Now the Hebrew right there, if you might have looked upon the second line of it, I bold typed some of it. That word that I bold typed is the first word on the second line, and it says Vayit Yazeb. If you're looking at the English on the top in the title of it, it says NEETZAHB. Yit Yazeb is the constructed form, the conjugated form of the Hebrew word NEETZAHB. And we're going to see, brothers and sisters, I apologize for not bold typing the English part there. Essentially, the word Hit Yazeb that I bold type in the Hebrew, the English is speaking about where it says placed himself in the way. While NEETZAHB placed himself or positioned himself or made himself like a pillar to stand against a particular case. All right. So that's something to be noted. Now, the second line, the last word on there says, Le Satan. The English says for an adversary, because Satan simply means an adversary. All right. So that's to be noted and understood. Next slide, please. The NEETZAHB Matter Part 2, 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 7. So we're dealing with the Hebrew linguistics in the scriptures. I'm not talking about some extraterrestrial, way outlandish stuff and then trying to mix that in with some mumbo jumbo and then bringing it back to the children of Israel. No. Israel, we right. So now, in this portion right here, it says this in the Hebrew. Walish Lomo Shanaim Asar Netzabim Al Kal Yisrael Wakil Kilu Et Hamelech Et Beito Kodesh Hashana Yihyeh Al Ekad Ha Ekad Lakal Kale. Now in the English it says this. And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel who provided victuals for the king and his household. Each man had to make provisions for a month in the year. Now, here's something I wanted to sit there and point out in this particular case. Now, if you're looking at the English on the right-hand side, the word NEETZAHB from not is actually not supposed to say NETZID. It's supposed to say NETZIB. All right, so that D, it's a typo. I apologize on that. It's supposed, all right, not NETZID. All right, it's NEETZAHB, not NETZAD. I apologize on that. That's a typo. All right, my bad, brothers and sisters, for that. It said the word NEETZAHB for NETZIB means as shown officer. The root is NATZAB. NATZAB, as stated from before, means to stand up or to stand erect. And in this particular case, it's showing it translated NEETZAHB as officers. So the word NEETZAHB also, like Elohim in Hebrew, shows a particular status with that particular person by that title. So this portion right here in 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 7 is translated as the word, brothers and sisters, is translated as the word officer. And this is something I just wanted to have to be shown for edification purposes. The wording we see in the book of Numbers chapter 22, verse 22, shows that the messenger was sent as an officer against Balaam due to Elohim being angry with him, being angry with Balaam. This is a case of El judging in the midst of the Elohim. So now, if we are to sit there and say that people with a certain rank was also called Elohim in the Bible, and we see as read from Psalm chapter 82 that Elohim judges in the congregation of El, we know and see good, well, and understand, brothers and sisters, that the Most High judges among the people that are considered to be mighty. But that doesn't make the people Yah. Yah is the Elohim that judges among the Elohim. The Elohim, as shown, means judges, also means gods, also means mighty ones. So even if a person is of a certain rank, they may say, oh, Ha'el Hazed, this powerful person, or this man of great status, and so forth and so on. You understand? This is why I went over the part in Psalms 82, where it says, I said, ye are gods, or godlike beings, or ye sons of the Most High. So even though man at times is called that, we know good and well and understand, brothers and sisters, that Yah is the Ha'el, as shown in Isaiah 42, verse 5. This is how you teach about the understanding of Elohim in the house of Yisrael from the Hebraic understanding, not trying to mix in Canaanite polytheism in the culture of Israel. You can't do that. All right, that doesn't work. We're going to show in the scriptures where it denounces that kind of act as well. Next slide, please. Hebrew knowledge on the matter of Elohim. We're going to read as from the left side. Elohim, in the sense of singular, spoken of God, is followed by the verb or adjective in the singular. We're going to show that later on as well. Part 2 of this says this. We should note that in cases as in 2 Samuel 7:23, we see Halku Elohim, and it means in layman terms the powers they win. The powers they win. And speaking of that, That is the host of El, the Elohim who are doing the work of El, such as in the case of Genesis chapter 20, verse 13. Now I'm going to read Genesis chapter 20, verse 13. So that way I can explain the part that I'm speaking of in this particular matter. All right. Now, for many people saying, oh, well, El was a deity of the ancient Canaanites and so forth and so on. If you're understanding that the first understanding of El came about before the people of Canaan came into existence, how then can you say that the Canaanites were the ones who created the understanding of El? El simply means mighty one or power. So if you were to not even speak Hebrew, but only speak English, that would be like saying the word mighty or power only belongs to that of the English people. So that means if you say the word shalit, the Hebrew word for mighty, or if the Hebrew word aloha, meaning powerful one, you see how people try to play with linguistics when they don't sit there and think others might sit there and peep something and like, no, something just don't seem right. You're trying to mix in the cultures of other nations with the house of Israel. Can't do that. You understand? Now, how do you know that El was before the aspect of Canaan? Is because even in the Bible, you read about Mahalalel, which was the grandson of Seth, which was the great grandson of Adam, in the book of Genesis chapter 5. Mahalalel means Mahal El, meaning praising El. So El was before Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Therefore, El was already known before Canaan. So this is something, I hope this is being noted and understood, because there's a poison being taught out there talking about, oh, well, El in the Ugaritic text has something to do with El being the pantheon where Israel was told. What are you talking about? Something is not adding up, because you're trying to mix in the culture of Israel with others in an attempt on a slide and on the DL to try to sit there and downplay the culture of the children of Israel. That ain't going to stand with those who have any kind of respect for Elohim Yah. That ain't going to rock. Every video you make, we're going to make one too. So that way, those blessed be the Most High who can sit there and see and have a third eye open and have intuition and be like, something just isn't clicking too well. Now let's go, if you will, to Genesis chapter 20, verse 13, and it reads as follows, because I want it to be noted and understood for edification purposes. This is Abraham speaking, all right, and what he had to say about his journey and what went on in his life. And it came to pass when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, this is thy kindness which thou shalt show unto me. At every place whither we shall come, say of me, he is my brother. Now, this is something I wanted to point out, because when we get into this particular aspect right here in Genesis chapter 20, verse 13, where it says God caused me, the Hebrew shows it as saying basically in layman terms, the powers, they caused me. But we know good and well that Elohim, meaning judges or powers or mighty ones, work for the Most High. So who does Israel give respect to? Yah-Ha-El, the Most High power. Yah, the God. That's the one that Israel is supposed to worship and pay homage to. Not try to sit there and find, well, this was also called an El, so I'm going to try to sit there and worship that one as well. That's against the ways of the Torah. You cannot mix Torah with cultures of other peoples. The Most High and his infinite wisdom covered all of those kind of bases. So let me give an example and break it down a little further. If a person is going through a situation and people who are of a certain rank and status and have a certain amount of clout and power in a position, and they help that person out of that, that is the aspect of saying powers, mighty ones, judges have helped you. But who caused those powers or mighty ones or Elohim to help you is Yah-Ha-El, who is the creator. That's why I went over the portion before in Isaiah 42 verse 5, so the biblical understanding of who the creator is can be noted and understood. All right, so now it goes on to say on the other side of this, it says the Israelites knew that there was one Elohim among them. Elohim, though ending in im, the im is not treated as plural in speaking of the Most High. In the next slides, we will show a case of such. Remember, in Hebrew, the verb and adjective agrees with the noun in Hebrew. This is why I went over Psalms 82, Isaiah chapter 42, so that way it can be noted and understood. And when people make an idol and say, oh, this is touchdown Jesus. You see what Yah did to that, because the same Bible tells you that it's Yah who sent forth the lightning. And that's what happened to touchdown Jesus. The Most High burnt it. The gods that have not created the heavens and the earth shall perish from the earth and from under these heavens. Thus saith the Most High. Next slide, please. Exodus chapter 20, verse 1 and 2, Hebrew and English. Now, on the Hebrew side, it says this. Vaydaber Elohim et kol hadbarim ha'ele lemor. And God spoke all these words, saying. Now, the bold type part where it says Vaydaber is the spoke part. You see, I put it bold type in the English here. Remember to do it that time. And put the bold type in the Hebrew part, so that way you can see what is translated as what. Now, it says this. If we remember that the verb agreeing with the noun, we must see that Vaydaber Elohim means in God he spoke, not in God they spoke. Because when we're dealing with the word Yedaber, that basically means he will speak. Now, when we're dealing, as will be shown later, with biblical Hebrew, there's a thing called the while consecutive. And with the while consecutive, what happens is in biblical Hebrew, the verb turns the past and the past to future. That's done also for the Israelite brothers and sisters in Deuteronomy 28 quite often. And it shall come to pass. So that right there just goes to show you how that particular aspect works. All right. So this is something that we point out for Hebrew edification. So this is a little deeper than what we went over last time, but I wanted to be noted that Vaydaber Elohim is the singular form. Yedaber is singular. If it had been plural, they spoke, it would have said Vaydabru. All right. So this is something to be noted for edification purposes. This is Exodus chapter 20, verse 1 and 2 in the Hebrew. So the Elohim in this case is in speaking of this one is the Most High, because Elohim in Exodus chapter 1, pardon me, Exodus chapter 20, verse 1 and 2 says, Anoki Yah Eloheka. I am Yahweh, your God. I am the Most High, your King, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. So there was only one God who brought Israel out of Egypt. And on a secular note, if you look at what is referred to as the Serabit El Kadim, where it speaks about an external references in the Sinai inscriptions about who brought the children of Israel out of Egypt, the only God's name that's on there is Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. And that's pointed out in the book that I wrote, which we're going to advertise later on. All right, so next slide, please. Now, what we're looking at right here, because I got to put the plug in the computer. What we're looking at right here, all right, brothers and sisters, Exodus chapter 20, verse 1 through 2, Hebrew part 2. Now, the Hebrew on the top left-hand side, reading it from the right to the left, because that's how Hebrew is read, says Vaydaber. The word here literally says Vaydaber. In 201 Hebrew verb books, as we mentioned before, you see that word on page 60. It is the PL verb stem of the word. Now, in past lessons, we went over the different stems of Hebrew, all right? In studying Hebrew grammar, we understand that while consecutive in biblical Hebrew, meaning making the future tense past and the past future and vice versa. So this is something to be noted. You can type in on Google, how does the while consecutive, W-A-W, because there's no V in Hebrew, all right? W-A-W consecutive work, and you can sit there and see that explain it. Now, let's go on to the English on the other side. And it says this. This means that the author knows that Elohim speaking to Israel is a he and not a they. Otherwise, it would, as stated, say Vaydaber and not Vaydaber. All right? So this is something I wanted to be pointed out. Then that's a self-note to me on the side that says show self, showing the matter from book. Now, what I'm going to sit there and ask, Basim, can you still hear me loud and clear and cool?
Loud and clear, good brother.
I'm going to ask you, all right, to sit there and show me and take it off the slide so I can explain and show in the Hebrew what I'm speaking of in this particular part with Yedaberu and Vaydaber and so forth and so on. All right. So let me know when
fine.
that's done. Thanks.
It's done now, good brother.
All right. Here's what we're looking at. This book here is what I'm referencing. All right. 201 Hebrew verbs. All right. So we're not just coming off the top of our head as if we have all the answers and no references. That's not how we're operating. On page as stated, all right. Let me know if I can be heard still. On page as stated.
Yeah, we hear you, and if you could hold it still so the camera focuses in. Page 60, good brother.
You see it? Page 60. All right. So that's that part right there. Here's something I wanted to point out for edification purposes. All right. So we can begin to sit there and see. Now, what you're looking at in this particular part, because I know it has to be held steady. I know. Right? Yedaber, yedaberu. Now, what I'm going to do, bear with me, family. Thank you for the time and taking an attention span out to listen. I'm going to highlight the singular word and leave the pluralized form of that same word unhighlighted. All right, in the green. Now, this is what we here are looking at. All right. The green part right there says Yidabir. That is the same word that is also in the slide, right? Then we also see right here Yedaberu, the part that's not highlighted. Yedaberu means they will speak. Ask any Hebrew scholar about that. Yedaber, he will speak. Yedaberu, they will speak. But as stated, when you're going over the aspects of what is referred to as, brothers and sisters, the wild consecutive in biblical Hebrew, what is future becomes past and what's past becomes future. All right, so I just want that to be noted for edification purposes and reasoning. So when we go back to the last slide, please, that we just left. Can we go to the slide that we just left?
Yeah, I'm on it. You may have. Do you see it?
My bad.
Okay.
Not yet. I don't see it on mine. Sorry.
Try clicking my on your screen or your phone. Try clicking my emblem. It should pop up. Or I can do it this way. 1 second, brother. You should see it now, my man.
All right. I see the slide. Am I still able to be seen?
No, I'm showing your PowerPoint.
Good. All right. Now, the word Yedabir is, as we see right there, means he will speak, but as stated with the wild consecutive, future becomes past, past, future. So Yedabir, meaning he will speak, becomes and he spoke. So in Exodus chapter 20, verse 1, where it says, Why Dabir Elohim, it is saying that Elohim, he spoke, not Elohim, they spoke. This is why you can't mix pantheons of other gods in the culture of Israel. Next slide, please. Thank you for that. All right, Israelites proclamation part 1. In the matter of Baalim, the lords of Canaan, the Israelites did worship them and called them upon them as gods. This, however, doesn't mean that Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh or YHWH is to be associated with Baalim. Now, in the book of 1 Kings chapter 18:39, I'm gonna read the English then the Hebrew. It says, and when the people saw it, they fell on their faces and they said, the Lord, he is God, the Lord, he is God. Now, on the top of it, it says this, while y'all call ha'am, while ye flew al panehem, while yombru, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, hu ha-Elohim, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, hu ha-Elohim. Now, what that is saying, in fact, what that is saying in fact, is the fact of saying that the people are saying that Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the Lord in the layman English, or the eternal, the one who was, the one who will be, who? Ha-Elohim. He is the Elohim. So Israel, after the situation with the matter of the people bowing down and cutting themselves up for Baal, which was part of the gods of the Canaanites, the Most High, through Elijah the prophet, was showing when he struck the water with fire, and the fire licked up the water, as opposed to the other way around. Normally, when you have it to where water quenches fire, in this particular case, the fire got rid of the water. Because what the Most High makes straight, you can't make crooked, and what the Most High make crooked, you can't make straight. So this is the power that we're speaking of. The gods of Canaan cannot compare to the God of Israel. So stop, brothers and sisters, trying to compare the Most High to the gods of these nations for whatever purpose. I don't know what's going on in people's head, but I hope and pray that those who have eyes and who are able to see can be able to see. You understand? So right there, and when you get in your own time, in 1 Kings chapter 18, where the people was calling out to the gods of Canaan, saying, Baal, save us. And Elijah said, if Baal be Elohim, because the people were thinking Baal is Elohim. And then he's saying, if Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, Yah be Elohim, then serve him. And the people, as this book right there points out, they wasn't able to answer. So then when the Most High showed through the lightning or the fire that is coming out of the heavens, and you seen it lick up the water in that particular case, Baal didn't answer. Yah answered. This is why I went over, blessed be the Father, for a point in reference earlier to Jeremiah chapter 10, where it says, the gods that have not created the heavens and the earth shall perish from the earth and from under these heavens. So if the Most High Yah is saying that through his prophet, through an Israelite, Jeremiah was an Israelite from the tribe of the Levites, how are you going to mix the Ugaritic text and a so-called council up in heaven of Elohim with the same God that the Bible's talking about? You can't. The cultures don't mix. You understand? It don't mix between Yah and the Nephero of Egypt. It don't mix between Yah and the Baalim of Canaan. So you cannot sit there and try to ease that in there and try to deter Israel off. Because all them kings of Israel, as we're going to talk about later on, who would try to induce Israel to, well, just, serve this other God, just a little, it's a mighty one. It's part of El. Don't, this word sounded like, right? El. The Most High in Deuteronomy 13 says, your hand shall be first upon him to smoke him. Of course, we can't do capital punishment, and I'm not trying to encourage nobody to do that. What I am saying is, those who lead astray, the Most High will sit there and deal with them. If you don't believe it, look at the conscious community and see how the Most High is shaking them left and right. Those who would lead astray, the Most High will deal with them. That's to be noted and understood. It's what happens when you trust upon man and not upon the Most High. It ain't in the slides, but I'm going to read Jeremiah chapter 17, if you will. All right, so we can gain an understanding of what we're talking about. In the book of the prophet Jeremiah, all right, here's what we read, chapter 17, verse 5. Because this is how some people try to sit there and play themselves. It says, thus saith Yah, cursed is the man that trusteth in man and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departed from Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. So, if somebody is teaching you about a God, and that God is not the one who brought the children of Israel, and we are laying claim, and with evidence on the other side, about us being the children of Israel, something wrong. Because the gods of the Baalim of Canaan, they didn't wake up the so-called Negro to this knowledge of being Israel. So why are you going to sit there and change your gods? You're going to do the same stupidity that ancient tribe of Judah did, and go from Yah, the fountain of living waters, and hewn yourself out broken cisterns that can hold no water. Because those texts of all those other nations, this text and that text and the Sumerian, the Enuma Elish of the cuneiform writing, and you got all of the Canaanite Ugaritic text, and then you got the text of this king and that king. You know what? All of those different texts, from the Enuma Elish to the Gilgamesh epic, to all of the writings of all of the papyri in Egypt, and everything else that they dug up, was all written on the same earth that Yah made. The papyrus of Egypt, the papyrus comes from a plant of Egypt. Yah made the plant. So it's still upon the earth in the creation that Yah, the God of Israel, made. The Ugaritic text was written on upon a stone or rock. It is the Most High who created the stone and the rock upon the same earth. So as we're going to go over later, there's going to be a PowerPoint on this to smash all of that. So let that be noted. All right, blessed be Yah. Let's go on to the next slide, please. The Israelites Proclamation Part 2. I'm going to read the Hebrew, then go into the English. Vayo mer Shemuel el kal beit Yisrael lemor im hakal im bekal lebabkem atem shabim el Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh hasiru et Elohei ha-nekar metokkem waha ashtarot waha kinu lebabkem el Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh waya abduhu lebado waya zel ekem yad Philistine. Translated accurately in the English, saying as follows. And Shemuel spoke unto all the house of Israel, saying, if you do return unto Yah with all your heart. In other words, you can't be on one foot in, one foot out. I got this God here and I got another one in my pocket. Just when I'm chilling around my boys, when I go and see them uptown, well, I'm going to sit there and just put this one right here on the side. It says, with all your heart, then put away the foreign gods and the Ashtarot from among you, and direct your hearts. Your heart is your mind. The Hebrew word for heart is the same Hebrew word for mind. It's the Hebrew word leb. This is why when you read in the Hebrew there, it says labab ken, which means the heart of you all, the you all's heart, the heart that belongs to you all, and direct your hearts unto Yah the Most High, and serve Him alone. Waya abduhu lebado. And if you will serve him alone, lebado, by himself, there's no second to compare to Yah or to consort with Yah. What are you saying? That there was a council up in heaven with Elohim, meaning you're surrounded to say there's more than one gods, and then they came up with an idea and Israel picked Yah. What are you talking about? That whoever coming up with this kind of mumble-jumbled, non-scriptural ideology is ridiculous. Because right here, as we just seen in the book of Samuel, it says, if the children of Israel wants to what? Be delivered out of the hand of the Philistines. The Philistines were beating Israel behind left and right. You know who the Philistines could be equated to today? And this is not to sound racial, but if we're saying that we, the true house of Israel, the so on this side of the water, yes, there are Israelites in other parts of the world. Yes, I'm not saying there's none in Asia. I'm not saying there's none in Africa. I am saying that speaking as a quote unquote a man of color in the United States, in the state of New York, I tend to more so talk about those who I am immediately around. It's not to say that there are now Israelites in no other part of the world. Okay, now let that be noted for and understood. Next part is this. All right, for edification purposes, blessed be the Most High. You know who you can equate the Philistines to today that's beaten out behind? The police, the white man, the government, the oppressors. It says what? And Shemuel said unto the house, all the house of Israel, saying, if you do return unto Yah with all your heart and put away the foreign gods, that's why they don't want our people to keep the Torah. They'll give you any kind of ideology except for the Torah. You notice the so-called conscious community is set up by these same people, and how you know that is because they always sit there and compare the black Israelite to the white Jew. Can I still be heard? Because we about to go in. Can I still be heard?
Loud and clear, good brother.
Thank you for that. All right. Always comparing the Israelite to the white Jew. That's how you can tell who runs who and who operates and who works for who. Let me put it in biblical terms. In the book of Joshua, chapter 5, right? Joshua withdrew his sword or took his sword out the sheath because he's seeing, not knowing that that was a messenger or an angel of the Most High. And Joshua said, are you for us or are you for our enemies? You understand? And what the messenger or the Malach, translated as angel, said unto Joshua, when you read Joshua 5, it says, take off your shoes for where you're standing upon this holy ground. It says, I am the captain of the host of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the Lord of all the earth. That's in Joshua chapter 5. So the representative of the Most High upon earth in Joshua 5 is coming in the name and speaking about the Most High. So if you're asking the black Israelites, what do you think the white Jews feel about you, I gotta ask you, why are you always coming in their name and representing them? When I deal with the Hebrew class and I'm being respected and given that position on a human level, blessed be the elder Prince Zippor, I say, blessed be Prince Zippor, in and outside of that class. I am in part on a human level representing Shema Yisrael Hebrew congregation in Brooklyn under Chief Prince Zippor. So if I say, yes, I'm coming and doing this class and it was asked of me and I'm thinking the Most High and I want to give a shout out to the elder Prince Zippor, I am on a human level representing as a representative, yes, of Prince Zippor doing the Hebrew class on Mondays in Shema. Here's my point. If you're always talking about the white Jewish man and asking the black Israelites about, well, the Jewish this and the Jewish that, you must be his representative. You gotta be. It's not a conspiracy. You mentioned them. So that's as far as it goes with that particular aspect. All right. Now, getting back to the point of this, Israel, if you want to see peace, like it says in Psalms 81, return to the Most High, and Yah will soon subdue our enemies. But our enemies know this. So therefore, they try to put stumbling blocks in the way of us returning back to the Most High in each and every single fashion. From the Most High ordaining, spanking children, chastising children, you go to jail if you spank your child. Okay. From the Most High saying, don't eat pork, they saying it's the other white meat and it's not as bad as for you as some people try to make you think, even though it's high in cholesterol. From the Most High saying, you shall not have any other gods before me, and they're saying you must pray in the name of him, him, and him, and him. And the Most High said, don't have any other gods before me. But somebody's going to sit there and say, well, in order to get to the Father, we got to pray through someone else. When the book of Deuteronomy already tells us that Yah, the God of Israel, is nigh, meaning near to Israel. We are the son of the Most High. Exodus 4:22. So the nations come through us, the Israelites. It's not Israel going through another Israelite. We have that kind of direct connection to the Father. The nations, when you go to Isaiah 66, it says concerning some of them Hamites and concerning some of them Japhite nations that have not known the Most High, neither have they seen his glory. That's in Isaiah 66. They shall come and bring Israel in fitters and letters back home to Jerusalem. So in that particular aspect, and in that particular case, everything I'm speaking, I'm proving through the scriptures. I'm not going outside of the realm and trying to sit there and lead people into my own kind of ideology. Not doing that. That's not how you represent when you're speaking about the Most High and his word. So let's go on to the next slide because we got some things to go over. All right, thanks. Can't in Torah mix Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh with another God. That is what some try to do. Now, this is what we're about to read, comes from Exodus chapter 20, verses 3 and 4. The English says this: thou shalt not make unto thee a graven image, nor any manner of likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down unto them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh, thy power, am a jealous El. I am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Now, I want to explain something about verse 4 toward the end, because a lot of brothers who are Tanakh or Old Testament based, such as myself, are asked about this because it says, well, it says visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children. But then we Tanakh brothers teach that no man could die for you, and whatever you do, no man can sit there and deal with your own particular sin. And such is the case, but we have to begin to look and see what that verse is actually saying. It says, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. In other words, if you got one generation hating Yah, 2 generation hating Yah, 3rd generation hating Yah, 4th generation hating Yah, that is the iniquity of those fathers that's going to be passed on down. Because when you go in Ezekiel chapter 18, it says if a son sees his father's iniquities and he doesn't do the like, the son should not be put to death or suffer the sins upon from the father. That the meaning of the father on the human level in Ezekiel 18. So this is something I wanted to point out in that particular case for evidence purposes. All right. So let that be noted. The Hebrew of this says as follows: No ta'aset lakaf fasel. That should not make unto thee any graven image. Fasel from the word fasal, meaning to engrave or to carve. All right. Wakal tamuna, in any picture or any image. Ashir b'shemayim mima'ar, which is in the heaven above, from above, or that which is in the heavens from above, meaning from above the earth. Wa ashir ba'aret mitakat, and from that which is in the earth, mitakat, from under or beneath, meaning under where you're standing. Wa ashir ba'mayim, and that which is in the water, mitakat la'aret, which is under the earth. So therefore, we know earth in Hebraic culture is not the same concept of earth that Christopher Columbus had. Because see, one of the flat earth concepts is, well, they sailed and then they never fell off the earth. But earth in Hebraic culture doesn't include what we see now as the Pacific and the Atlantic and the Indian and the Arctic Ocean. So this is something I wanted to point out for edification purposes. All right. It says what? Can I still be heard? Thank you, Basim.
Loud and clear. It just takes me a second to unmute my mic to answer you, good brother. Loud and clear.
All right, thank you. Now, it says, as we're reading on in this particular part right here, you're not supposed to make any graven image of anything in the heavens, which is in the skies, the earth underneath you, or the waters underneath the earth. So what else do we know outside of outer space, the Shemayim, part of the firmament, the Wakriyah, outside of that, on earth where we are as well, and underneath the earth? What do we know outside of that? Nothing. So the Most High is saying you cannot make anything and worship it. That should not bow down to them nor serve them. Ki ano ki yah Eloheka, for I, the Lord thy God. Eloquana is what? A jealous power. So we don't sit there and deal with other gods. When we pray in the name of the Most High and the Most High alone, because he's Eloquana. And Israel is the wife of the Most High, as we go over in the book of Isaiah chapter 54. So a wife can only be calling upon her own one husband. And Israel is the wife of the Most High. As we went over in the book of Hosea chapter 2, verse 16 to 18, it says, you shall call me Ishi. Ishi means my husband. That's what Israel's supposed to call the Most High. And a wife can only have one husband. A wife who has two husbands is called nasty. And that's what the Most High compared Judah to by saying, oh, you go and deal with all these other gods, then come back and say, well, we want to serve Yah. You need to clean yourself up and then get yourself right and together. That's what you need to do and what we need to do. All right, next slide, please. The name Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. In Hebrew, one cannot say my Yah, his Yah, or her Yah, simply because Yah is Yah. So you can't personify Yah. You cannot show possession of the noun named Yah. Like for instance, I could take a book, which is a noun. We know a noun, N-O-U-N, is a person, place, or thing. Right? I could take a book and say, this is my book. You cannot do the same thing with the Most High and say, this is my Yah. This is his Yah. This is her Yah. Because Yah is Yah. That's why you can't do that. The Hebrew noun or verb speaking of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh is always in the singular. We pointed that out in Exodus chapter 20. We discussed that Elohim, meaning powers, gods, judges, mighty ones, can be shown in the plural, and in Hebrew culture, that is shown in a noun or verb that is with it. The Lord God, as we read and shown in Genesis 2, is in Hebrew, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh Elohim. And we know that Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh from the root word in Hebrew, Hayah, means to be or to exist. He who was, he who will be, the eternal power. So when we read in Genesis chapter 2, and it says in the English, the Lord God, the Hebrew says Yahweh Elohim or Yahweh Elohim. You understand? The literal translation will be he who was, he who will be, which is meaning the eternal power. The eternal power. That's what that's saying. And we already shown in Isaiah 42, verse 5, who is the one who actually sat there and laid claim to that. So I got a question to everybody with your Enuma Elish, with your Papyrus of Egypt, and your other texts that came out of the Canaanites. Did any of those gods ever claim to be the one who brought Israel out of the land of Egypt? 1 and 2, did any of them ever claim to be the creator and the maker of heaven and earth? Because unless I'm mistaken, the only God ever recorded to ever be the one recording himself saying he created the heavens and the earth is Yah. So I don't know of any other God ever on record stating that they created the heavens and the earth and took a people and named that people. Did any of the gods of Canaan name the people Canaan? Because Israel was named that by the Most High when we read in the book of Genesis 35, verse 10. Israel got that name directly from the Heavenly Father through the messenger that Jacob fought. And of course, we know we don't worship the messenger. We worship the sender, not the one that is sent. Okay, so let's go on. Thalim and Mayim matter in Hebrew. All right, we're going to move on. In Hebrew, the word for water is Mayim. In many cases, the im, rather spelled as E-E-M or I-M, is showing the plural. Yet, as we see, water in waters are both Mayim in Hebrew. In this case, it is not so much of it as plural, but rather the immensity of the object, because water, as we know, is certainly immense. So here's the point of what I'm saying. The word Elohim, and speaking of the Most High, is said in the singular context when you show it with the noun or a verb that goes along with it. You understand? But when you get right down into the whole matter and into the aspect of it, it shows the immensity of it. So Im shows it also this one thing being deep and immense. All right? The Hebrew word Thalim from Alam, said by many as Ta'alim, means you will vanish. This, however, is not a plural word, though it ends in the word im or im in Hebrew. If you were to say someone will disappear or someone will vanish, the Hebrew way of saying that is Talim or Ta'alim. It is an im sound, but it's still not a plural word. So this is something I wanted to point out for edification purposes. In the next slide, we will go over again some aspects of Hebrew knowledge. Let's go on. Hebrew praises and explanations. Now, if you want to know the culture of a people, you got to look to see who they were calling upon in their pure state. And let's see what's going on here. This is coming from the book of Isaiah chapter 26. The Hebrew says this. Bitku b'yod he-wah-he, ad-de-ad, ki b'yad yod he-wah-he, zur olamim, trust ye in Yah forever. For the Lord is God, an everlasting rock. Now, zur means rock. Zur also means fortress. All right? So that's something I wanted to be pointed out for edification purposes. The word zur also means flint and so forth and so on, because a rock, you can use that and make it into a flint like a stone. All right? So that's how that works in that particular case. Now, getting back to what we were saying. This is from Isaiah chapter 26, verse 4. And certainly Isaiah wasn't teaching the people idolatry, but he certainly wasn't teaching them about the gods of Canaan either. All right, and it says this: the side to this is of Isaiah chapter 26, verse 4. It should be clear now that the Israelites have one God, and the one God of Israel is not part of an Ennead or a unit of Elohim. That, of course, will be polytheism. And as we know, Israel is not to be polytheistic. All right, so next slide, please. Hebrew way of explaining things about the Most High God. This is coming from Proverbs. This is the slide that I said will smash certain things. This is coming from Proverbs chapter 21, verse 30. There is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against Yahweh. Ain kakma, wa ain tibuna, wa ain atza, leneged yod-he-wah-he. Neged means against, an adversary to. Neged is not the positive aspect. All right. So what it's saying is, there is no wisdom, there is no understanding, there is no counsel against the Most High. So what are you speaking about the counsel up in heaven about? Because if Yod-he-wah-he is saying that he is the El who created the heavens and the earth, That means the other ones didn't do so. So what are you speaking about? That doesn't hold logic when trying to mix it with Israelite culture. The Roman Empire, and one of their historians named Tacitus stated, the Israelites have absolutely no idols inside of their temple, no images. And so when Pompey of Rome tried to get the Israelites to put an image in there, the Israelites was like, nah, we not doing that. And then eventually Pompey went to Egypt and he got killed by Ptolemy the 13th, by Ptolemy the 13th's orders, that is. All right, so getting back to what we're saying here, Hebrew way of understanding things about the Most High God. There is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against Yah. So you cannot try to squeeze in any other type of people's wisdom or counsel or understanding or somebody's degree or somebody's or concept or opinion and then say that's of the Most High God. It doesn't work in that manner because the Most High is exactly telling you what he's about and what he deals with. All right. And we're going to get into that as we get further on in this particular presentation as well. Okay. Let's go on. Next slide, please. Yod He Wah He, Yahweh, Yahweh, said by some as Yahuwah, we all know who we're speaking of, is not like any other. This is from Deuteronomy chapter 12. And this is a punchline as well. When the Lord thy God shall cut off the nations from before thee, where you go in to dispossess them, and now this possesses them, and dwelleth in their land, take heed to thyself, that thou be not ensnared to follow them, after that they are destroyed from before you, and that thou inquire not after their Elohim, after their gods, saying, how use these nations to serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto Yahweh Elohim, the Lord thy God, for every abomination to the Most High, which he hates, have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters do they burn in the fire to their Elohim, or to their mighty ones, or to their gods. So I hope what was just read was like understood coming out of the scriptures in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 12. All right. Now, I know I've been asking periodically and quite often for a sound check, but Basim, I need another one if you don't mind. I'll send you something through PayPal for your extra help. LOL. But I do need you to give me a sound check because I'm about to, bless me the Father, go in on that.
Loud and clear. Do you want the camera on you or on your PowerPoint, sir?
On a PowerPoint, so that way, brothers and sisters, I don't want people to think, oh, Yeshua is just trying to show himself. You're supposed to speak the word. We're going to keep it on the PowerPoint. It says this in Deuteronomy chapter 12. Now, this is speaking about all of your nations, but in this particular portion is also hitting and pinpointing Canaan. All right, it says this: when the Lord thy God shall cut off these nations from before thee, whether thou goest in to dispossess them, and now dispossessest them and dwelleth in their land. The Hebrews, part of the Kabiru that the Amana records talk about, that went in the land, and from the era of Joshua all the way down to the era of David, these meddlesome, quote unquote, meddlesome Kabiru, the Hebrew, the Apiru that we read of in the Amana records, all right, that we went over in the SOS event before, which is also on the same Basim Show channel. Take heed to thyself, that thou be not ensnared to follow them. Meaning that take heed, he shabru like him. Pay attention to yourself. Look to thine own self. Like there's a healthy form of mind in your own business. Handle your business. Take heed to thyself, that thou be not ensnared. Meaning that it's a snare like, oh, it seems so attractive. It seems so pretty. Wow. We say L. Canaan said L too. Let me see what they were about. Right? After that, they are destroyed from before you, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how use these nations to serve their gods, even so will I do likewise. So how are you going to mix the culture of Israel, which is the Torah, and then try to sit there and mix that off with the cultures of other peoples, when part of the culture of Israel is telling you that it is unique to itself? You cannot sit there and mix in the ways of the Canaanites, the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Edomites, the Philistines, the Romans, the this, the that, and then try to make a one big gumbo and say, oh, I'm all things to all men. We can sit there and serve anything. No. It says, though none of us online are perfect, it says, you shall be wholehearted pardon me, wholehearted with the Most High thy King. That's what that's talking about. So I hope this should be noted and understood for edification purposes. It says, thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God, for every abomination, not just, oh, it's just a custom of the peoples. It says every abomination. Homosexuality was part of the way those ancient nations served their Elohim. Lesbianism is part of how those nations served their Elohim. Masturbating above a child's image is how those nations used to serve their Elohim. You understand? The ancient Canaanites, when you go in the book of Joshua, used to have a custom when every man would sit there and take another man's wife or daughter, and they would do what today is referred to as wife swapping. I hope I'm being heard and understood. Blessed be the Father. One of the ancient Canaanite customs, and one of the ways that they used to serve their mighty ones or their Elohim would be to sit there and do wife swapping. Torah says, Lo tin af, thou shalt not commit adultery. Lo takmod eshet re'erka, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. So I'm not supposed to be swapping wives with another brother. That's against the laws of the Most High. Thou shalt not do so unto the Most High your King. For every abomination, such as wife swapping, homosexuality, lesbianism, thievery, crooked ways, uncooked and unkept ways, do so unto their Elohim. So if you want to say, well, it says Elohim and it has some kind of linguistic connection, the linguistic connection, quote unquote, shows it to be drastically different because the cultural connection is different. You can't mix that culture, man. Next slide, please. And by the way, what you read and seen is coming straight out the King James in the Masoretic text in Deuteronomy chapter 12. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 in part. Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Shema Yisrael, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh Eloheinu, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh Echad. Echad means one. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. Some attempt to say, with a polytheistic mind, that the word Echad means a unit, unity, oneness. I spoke oneness wrong, pardon that. Or one, and assert that there is more than one Yah. There are some people saying that there was this Yah, and then there was another Yah. We're going to show via the same scriptures that such a case is not accurate. Next slide, please. Told you it's going to be a little deeper than the other one we went over. The quote they try to get from is Genesis chapter 19:24, where it says in the English, then the Lord caused to rain upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. So you know what they're saying? That it says Lord twice. So the Lord in Hebrew is Yahweh, said by some as Yahweh, must mean that there's one Yahweh and then there's another Yahweh. Or that there's one Yahuwah and then there's another Yahuwah. Dr. York used to teach there was more than one Yahuwah. You see what he got exposed for every abomination do they do unto their gods, such as pedophilia, such as what happened with Dr. York, the man who was up there teaching that there was more than one Yahuwah, or more than one Yah, or more than one Yahweh. Dr. York used to teach that. You see what happened? The Most High judges in the congregation of the mighty ones. So even though people's like, Dr. York was a great teacher, he's a master teacher, you see what the Most High did to him. We're not dealing with the gods of Canaan. We're dealing with the true and the living one. All right? So I hope this should be understood. Now, I don't mean to sound offensive. I don't mean to try to present myself or my teachers like we're perfect, but we're not trying to call upon another God. Okay, now, it says this in Isaiah chapter 62, verse 8. The Lord has sworn by his right hand and by the arm of his strength. Surely I will no more give thy corn to be food for thine enemies. The strangers shall not drink thy wine for which thou hast labored. So the Most High Yahweh is swearing by his own right hand. So there's only one Yah. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. There's one Yah. Yah Eloheinu, Yah Echad. When you go into the book of the prophet Zechariah, it says, in that day shall Yah be one and his name one. Because in these days, you got people thinking that there's more than one Yah. So what Zechariah is saying in the future is that day, Yah will be known as one and his name, not their name, his name one. There's only one Yah. People, unfortunately, have gone off the deep end to a certain extent. All right? So the Most High, being that one Ha'el, the one power, can only swear by his own right hand because there's no one else that Yah can swear to. Deuteronomy chapter 6:13 tells us we're supposed to swear in the name of Yah. Yah doesn't have no one else to swear to. So he swears by himself. And yes, we can swear and take oaths because it's in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 13. Next slide, please. All right, Genesis chapter 19:24 and Isaiah chapter 45, verse 23. The Lord caused to rain upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah, brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. The Hebrew on top of that says this: Wa Yahweh Himtir al Sodom wa al Amorah, Gafrit wa Ish, fire and brimstone. Me'et Yahweh min Hashemayim, from the Most High out of heaven. Meaning the Most High caused something to happen from the Most High, because there's only one Most High Yah. Isaiah chapter 45, verse 23. By myself have I sworn, the word has gone forth out of my mouth in righteousness. It shall not come back, that unto me, not unto us, but unto me, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall swear. So this is something I wanted to be noted for edification purposes. The Most High is saying that by himself he swears, because there's no one else for the Most High to swear to. So there isn't no more than one Yah, because if, heaven forbid, had that been the case, then one Yah would have been able to swear by the other Yah. But you don't see that in the scriptures. That's not part of the Hebraic understanding that we're getting out the scriptures. So you got to be forced, when you're trying to ease your way out the Torah commandments, you got to try to ease your way out of that by trying to fit in another God on a slide. But the Most High covered that right in Deuteronomy chapter 12. What did they do with their gods? We can do with the Most High. No, you cannot. Next slide, please. Genesis 19:24 again, because this is the quote that they go to. Then we're going to go to Exodus chapter 15 and Isaiah chapter 62, verse 8 again. It says, the Lord caused to rain upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah, brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. We already covered that. Okay, next part comes underneath that in the book of Exodus 15. Thy right hand, O Yah, glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Yah, dasheth in pieces the enemy. So that part in Exodus 15, saying thy right hand, O Yah, glorious in power, is speaking about glory given to who? The Most High. His right hand works for him. All right? It says, O Yah, dasheth in pieces the enemy. This is after they left out of the land of Egypt. Thy hand, thy right hand, pardon me. Thy right hand, O Yah, I'll put it twice on one on either side for a reason. All right. Thy right hand, O Yah, glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Yah, dasheth in pieces the enemy. The Most High has sworn by his right hand and by the arm of his strength. Surely I will no more give thy corn to be food for thine enemies, and strangers that shall not drink thy wine, for which thou hast labored. Isaiah chapter 62 in part is speaking about us being blessed and not under those curses that Deuteronomy 28 is talking about. Now, it says what? In the song of Exodus chapter 15, it says, thy right hand, O Yah, glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Yah, dasheth in pieces. I want to, brothers and sisters, go into Exodus chapter 15, if you will. All right? We're going to go to Exodus chapter 15. We're going to read in the Hebrew what it says in that particular aspect. All right? We are in Exodus 15, verse 6 precisely. Yaminka yod he wa he. The dari bakoak. Yaminka yod he wa he. Tirat oye. The Hebrew word bakoak means in power, because the word koak is another Hebrew word for power. So Ha'el Yah, the same one that we read of in Isaiah chapter 45, is the same one who brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. The same one who made the proclamation in Exodus chapter 20 that he is the Lord thy God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And as we're going to see later on, we're going to see who accompanied the Most High in bringing Israel out of the land of Egypt. Next slide, please. Deuteronomy and Genesis, Yod He Wah He doing. Then the Lord caused to rain upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Most High out of heaven. And then it goes on in Genesis chapter 19, verse 25. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and all that which grew upon the ground. So who is doing the situation that happened upon Sodom and Gomorrah? Because according to Genesis chapter 19, verse 25, it says he, not they. So if there was two different Yahs, how does it then say in the next verse he and not they? And why does the Hebrew never show that in Genesis chapter 19:24 to show it to be two different aspects or more than one Yah? It's because the Hebrews knew good and well there's only one Yah. That's why. Deuteronomy, as we're going to see right here. See now, remember we said in the last slide, right, that we're going to show who accompanied the Most High when Israel was brought forth out of Egypt, right? This is in Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 39, and here's what it says. See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. I have wounded and I heal, and there is none that can deliver out of my hand. Not our hand, not saying plural, it's my hand, singular. See now that I, even I, am he. The Most High is saying that he is that one. So the one who brought Israel out of the land of Egypt is Yah. And we see who accompanied the Most High in bringing Israel out of Egypt. That one is called the no God, because it was a no power with the Most High, accompanying the Most High, because the only power was the Most High. There was no other God with the Most High doing those plagues. There was no other God with the Most High when the sea parted. We already went over some of those things in the book that I wrote. So these are just some of the things I just wanted to point out for edification purposes. So let's understand something. In Deuteronomy 32, verse 39, the Most High is saying what? I kill and I make alive. So the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah was done by who? The Most High is saying that he's the one who brings that drama. He's the one who kills and brings alive. And there's none that can deliver out of my hand. Then in Deuteronomy 32, verse 40, it clarifies that by saying this: for I lift up my hand to heaven and say, as I live forever, because there's no one else that the Most High can swear to. Next slide. Why are there vowels in Hebrew language equals Hebrew knowledge? Now, I hope what we went over before, which was the bulk of the presentation, has been understood. And with the time allotted, we're going to go on with the rest of what we're dealing with. All right. Slide count check. Basim, what slide are we at, bro?
We are on slide number 30 of 45, good brother.
All right, all right. Why are there vowels in Hebrew language equals Hebrew knowledge? Leviticus chapter 3, verse 3, Hebrew. And he shall present for the sacrifice of peace offerings an offering made by fire unto Yah, the fat that covereth the inwards and all the fat that is upon the inwards. Now in the Hebrew, it says this: Wehikrib bezebak shalamim ishe la Yahweh et hakelel ham kase et hakwered we et kal ha Keleb Asher al ha Quered. Now, I'm not going so much into the breakdown of every word in this in Hebrew, but in Leviticus chapter 3, verse 3, it distinctly we see bold typed in the Hebrew there, the Hebrew word Ishe. Now, let's go on the other side in Genesis 2, verse 22 in Hebrew. It says, "In the rib which the Lord God had taken from the man, made he a woman and brought her unto the man." Now, in the Hebrew, it says this, "Wayiben Yod Hewahe Elohim et Hazela Ashel La Kwak Min Ha Adam Li Isha Wayibi Eha El Ha Adam." Right? And the Most High, he took from the rib, the Hebrew word is zaleh, which means side, not rib only. Okay. And from that side that the Most High took, as it says, he covered the rest of it with flesh, right? When you go and you read in the book of Genesis chapter 2 in your own volition, it says, "And he brought her unto the man," meaning that a woman is brought to a man by her father. In this case, Kawa or Eve, representing the feminine principle, was brought by her father, the Most High, to the husband. You just don't go and try to get a woman on your own volition and just disregard her parents. See, that's part of the culture of Israel. See, little things like that. Like Eve, the wife to be for Adam, was brought to Adam by her father, the Most High. Just like a man gets his wife by requesting it from her father, and the father gives the sanctioning for it. See, there's a culture in the house of Israel. You ain't going to get that by looking at the Ugarit text inside of the Enuma Elish, inside the walls of Karnak. All right, now the next thing I wanted to point out, we're going to go into the next slide. All right. Fire offering in Hebrew is Ishe. The same spelling also says Isha. Strong's Concordance H800 and H801 shows that Ishe is fire offering, an offering made by fire. Now, Strong's Concordance H802 says that Isha or Isha, depends upon how one spells it, means woman. If there are no vowels, how can one distinguish between what is a fire offering and what is a woman? Because it's spelled exactly the same way in Hebrew letters. So the vowels, aka the sounds, must be there. Okay, that's logic. Next slide, please. A bit raw, but to the point. Exodus chapter 28, and this is in verse 2. Where Asita big day Kodesh, la Aharon Akika, Lekabod Ul Tif Aret. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother for splendor and for beauty. Now, in the book of Exodus chapter 28, you see the Hebrew word Kodesh, reading it from the right on the top line. The third word is bold typed, and the word holy is also bold typed in the English. Now, let's see how that same word, if there were no vowels, can also be misunderstood for something drastically different. We go to 1 Kings chapter 14, verse 24. It says in the Hebrew, Wagam Kodesh, Haya ba'aretz, asu koko hato abot hagoyim asher horish yorewahe mipnei bnei Yisrael. The English says this of that same portion. And there were also sodomites in the land, and they did according to the abominations of the nations, which the Most High drove out before the children of Israel. So, as we went over before, homosexuality, which is sodomy, that was part of the way those Canaanites served their Elohim. So you can't try to mix the ways of Canaan into the culture of the Israelites. The Bible is not even allowing that. It's like a force field. Like, no, Deuteronomy 12, it's always going to pinpoint, can't mix it. Can't mix it. Can't mix it. Can't mix it. Oh, you just don't want to serve the Most High. You don't want to keep the Torah, so you want to ease your way out by going into the ways of Canaan. Just keep it 100. And hopefully you return back to Yah, as we all need to. All right? So, one of the things to sit there and let it be noted in this particular part right here into the Hebrew is the bold type word holy in Exodus 28, and the same Hebrew word Kodesh, bold typed in the Hebrew there, is the same spelling as the bold type in 1 Kings chapter 14, 24 as Kodesh, and the meaning of it is drastically different than what's holy. That's a layman terms a faggot, a homosexual. Homosexuality and holiness are two opposites in the culture of Israel. But if you didn't know what Kodesh, meaning holy, and Kodesh, meaning sodomite, without any vowels, aka the sounds, how would you distinguish between Exodus chapter 28 verse 2 and 1 Kings 14 verse 24 in the Hebrew. And for those old, well, the cop out to some or by some is, well, he's speaking that Yiddish. We went over earlier in the week how this is not Yiddish. All right, so next slide, please. Day and time in Israel's way. All right, this is a controversial one, and because there are some who say the whole day and night issue, but they usually say it in regards to the Shabbat. So what I wanted to do is, blessed be the Most High Yah, is go over the Hebraic aspect so we can see what the scriptures itself is saying. All right. The next two slides will deal with the idea that some have, that since Genesis 1 said the Most High divided the day from the night, that the Sabbath in other times is to be only in daylight and not like Genesis 1 verse 5, which says a day is, and there was evening and there was morning one day. Then in a couple of verses later, you see there was evening and there was morning the second day, and there was evening and morning the third day. In order to get from even to morning, that must include night. We are in nighttime now. We already passed the even, at least in the New York time, it's 10:11 p.m. here. So that's Eastern Standard Time. So it's already nighttime. So even and morning includes the cycle that we're actually currently in on the East Coast. So Genesis 1 verse 5 says there was evening and morning one day, means that the day in the Hebraic culture starts in the even. In Leviticus chapter 23 verse 31 and verse 32, speaking about the Day of Atonement called Yom Kippur, is emphatically showing that. Next slide. Genesis chapter 4 verse 3 and Exodus chapter 2 verse 23. Now, what I want to focus in on is the concept that people are saying that day in the Hebraic culture can only mean the daylight part, and then see what the scriptures itself says. Genesis chapter 4 verse 3. Remember, the word day in Hebrew is yom. Yom is day, and yamim is days. But then you may find some unfortunately will say, well, the Hebrew's not important. So let me understand this. If you're saying that the Hebrew is not important when it comes down to a subject matter like this, but you're calling yourself a Moreh, which is a Hebrew title as a teacher, and you got a Hebrew name to yourself, I don't know if you was born with that Hebrew name. I wasn't born with the Hebrew name I currently have. But if somebody wanted to call me Hutchinson, I would kind of feel a way about that if you're an Israelite. I think you're trying to be insulting. But if you're saying Hebrew's not important, but you walk around with a self-appointed or even a parent-given Hebrew name, then what's the point in having a name if you're saying Hebrew's not important? Stop playing games and shucking and jiving, Israel. You understand? As we went over before, as I stated on my Facebook post, I'm leaving personally all that Kemet stuff alone, man. We're going to focus and bring it back to the house of Yisrael. All right, Genesis 4:3 and Exodus 2:23. Genesis 4:3. Wahi mekwetz yamin. Wayabe kwayin mipne ha'adama minka la yod he wahe. In the English, it says this: in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Most High. Process of time, the word time in the Hebrew there is yamim. Would that time also include anything like 10 p.m., like when it's dark or night? I would think so. In the process of time. So we see that time is also translated in Hebrew as the word yom, and the plural is the word yamim. Then we go to Exodus chapter 2:23, the Hebrew. Wahi b'yamim harabim hahem. See how it rhymes? Wahi b'yamim harabim hahem. Wayamat merek Misrayim. Waya'an ku b'nei Yisrael min ha'aboda. Wayiz aku. Wata'al sha'atam el ha'elohim min ha'aboda. And it came to pass in the course of those many days that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up to Elohim by reason of the bondage. Now, it says those many days. B'yamim harabim hahem. So taking Yamim and looking at Genesis chapter 4, verse 3, we can also see that that word days can also be translated as times. So those many times also meaning those many days. So when people say, oh, Genesis saying the light is the day can only mean daylight itself. So anything else is only night. So the Shabbat day only is the daylight part. So Friday night, quote unquote, cannot be part of the Shabbat is emphatically incorrect. Because as we really went over, there was even and more than one day. All right, next slide, please. Numbers chapter 13, verse 20, and Numbers chapter 32, verse 10. The English of Numbers 13:20 says this. And what the land is, whether it is fat or lean, whether there is wood therein or not, and be of good courage, meaning that the Most High through Moses was telling the people when they were to go and spy the land out, be of good courage. The Most High don't deal with, I don't know, I don't believe, I can't. No, the Most High is telling the people through the prophet Moshe, be of good courage and bring the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. Now I want to read this in the Hebrew and show what it says. Omaha aretz hashmena he im raza hayesh ba eitz im ayin wahit kazak tem, meaning to take courage within oneself. Ul kwaktem mipre haaretz, and take you or take of the fruit of the land. Wahayamim yemei bikure anabim. Now the English distinctly says, now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. But we see in the Hebrew the plural of the word yom, which many just say only means day, yet we see the translation also meaning time. So in the days of such and such also means in the time of such and such. Just like people say, hey, back in my granddad's day, meaning in my granddad's time, it's all getting understanding, and all that get understanding. But when you want to wiggle out of doing something, you're going to try to find your way to wiggle out of doing something. Numbers chapter 32:10. The Hebrew, or the English says this. And the Lord's anger was kindled in that day, and he swore, saying, all right, now in the Hebrew says this. Why you called off your hey wahe beyom hahu? Why you shabale more? Now, that portion right there in Numbers 32 with the singular of Yamim as Yom means day. But we just showed how it also means time. Meaning in that time, the Most High was upset with the children of Israel in Numbers 32. So I hope this should be noted for edification purposes. All right, let's next slide, please. Next slide, please. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 10, time and day. Now, this is the prophet Moshe speaking upon this. So we're going to read it from the left side. It says, now I stayed in the mount as at the first time, 40 days and 40 nights. And Yah hearkened unto me at that time also. Yah would not destroy thee. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 10 in the Hebrew says this. Moshe or Moses speaking to the people saying the following. Wa anoki amati bahar kayamim harishonim arba'im yom wa arba'im laila wa yishba yore wahe ela gam pa'am hahu lo abba yore wahe hashkitecha. All right, so basically saying the Most High wasn't going to sit there and destroy the children of Israel. But the point I want to make out, as pointed out in the bold part, where it says first time, the Hebrew says kayamim harishonim, meaning that you could say that as the first time or in the first days. Yamim is the plural of the word yom. Yom is the singular of the word yamim. And we've both seen the different parts of the scriptures where it's translated interchangeably between the word T-I-M-E and the word day, D-A-Y. All right, so the point is that the word yom means more than one meaning. It means day or course or time. Thus, when we read in the separation of day and night in Genesis chapter 1, verse 4 and 5, that is speaking of his day and his night, which was the start to the count of the Shabbat. So the separation of day and night, let me explain. When you go in Jeremiah 31, and it says, if the nations could break the Most High's ordinance between the day and the night, meaning that there's the one time and then there's the other time. But for us humans, day is from even to morning, as is shown by many Israelites in Genesis chapter 1, verse 5. In the evening and the morning was one day. And then it goes on, in the evening and morning was the second day. To get from evening to morning, you cannot interchange that and then say, well, morning and evening. You can't do that. There's a reason why the scriptures read as it reads. All right, so next slide, please. All right, I'm gonna ask the brother Basim 2 questions. 1, can I be heard? And 2, how much more time do we have left?
Well, yes, you can definitely be heard, good brother. And there is no set time limit. We're on slide 37, so that means you've got 8 slides left. So whatever time you need to finish your presentation, it's up to you. I'm here for you, brother. It's whatever you want to do.
The tribe of Dan and the Danites matter. The tribe of Dan, a controversial subject to some. There are some who say that the tribe of Dan is destroyed, yet the scriptures speak otherwise. In the next several slides, we will go over the fact that the Danites were not destroyed. All right? Now, sound check, can I be heard? Because this gets a little more controversial.
Loud and clear, Kashub the historian.
Next slide, please. Judges chapter 18, verse 30. Now, this is a quote that some people try to make to say that the tribe of Dan must be destroyed out of existence out the earth, like the island of Mu or something like that. And the children of Dan set up for themselves the graven image. And Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of the Danites until the day of the captivity of the land. The captivity of the land, speaking about when the time of the Assyrians came in. So the Assyrian army came in when we go in the Bible in 721 to 722 BCE. But let's go over something. Let's go to 2 Kings, if we will, your own time, but bear with me too. Go to 2 Kings, if we will, chapter 15, verse 29. 2 Kings, right? 15:29. And here is what we read. So you can stare at this slide and go over the scriptures with me as well, as I'm doing the same thing. It says the following. 15:29. In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria, and he took Ayon and Abel Bet Ma'akah and Yanoah and Kadesh and Hazor and Gal-Ed and Galilee, all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria. So this is Tiglath-Pileser, who we went over in the past, speaks about also taking captive of the children of Israel and his own Assyrian records. All right. So this is talking about the tribe of Naphtali. So the captivity of the land started with, as noted, the tribe of the Naphtalites. Now let's go, if we will, to 2 Kings 17, verse 5. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria. Let's remember Samaria, brothers and sisters, and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah and in Habor on the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. And it was so because the children of Israel had sinned against Yahweh Elohim, the Lord their God, who brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Paro, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods. They started looking to the Ugaritic text and trying to mix it with the culture of Israel. All right, and walked after the statutes of the nations whom the Most High had cast out before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel which they practiced. And the children of Israel did impute things that were not right unto the Lord their God. See, they wasn't following Deuteronomy chapter 12, where it says you're not supposed to look to what the other nations did in serving their God and say we're going to serve the Most High the same way. See, that's why it was important to go over that portion in Deuteronomy chapter 12. See, every prophecy that the Most High stated came to pass. That's why we pray for the mercy of Yah, because his mercy is also as real as his words. You understand? Because none of us are perfect. So now, getting back into this portion right here, it says what? The children of Israel were put out of their land. And it gives you the reasons why as well. And the children of Israel did impute things that were not right unto the Most High their king. And they built them high places in all their cities, from the river of the watchmen to the fortified city. And they set them up pillars in Asherim, upon every high hill and under every leafy tree. The Asherim is the plural of the word Asher. Asher was one of their gods of the nations, not to be confused with the tribe of Asher. All right, so I want that to be noted for edification purposes. But here's a point. The Asherim included a female deity that they called the Asherah. Now, some people try to say that the Asherah was the wife of Yahweh, that Yahweh, the Most High Yah, had a god named the Asherah. But the Most High is telling you that you're not supposed to associate him with any of the gods. So the Asherah is not a wife of Yah. The Most High said, if anything, Yisrael or Israel is his wife. So let that be noted for understanding and edification purposes. All right. And let's go on. And it says this. And there they offered in all the high places, as did the nations whom the Most High carried away before them, and what wicked things to provoke Yah. And they served idols. The Elohim of the nations are Feselim. The gods of the nations are idols. The tribe of Dan was doing it in Judges 18. The tribe of Judah was doing it when you go to Jeremiah chapter 2. The tribe of Ephraim was doing it when you go to the book of 1 Kings chapter 16. Israel fell due to that. Next slide, please. The matter of Judges 18:30. Judges 18, like most of the book of Judges, speaks of the fact that the children of Israel did wicked. Dan, in that portion, is just the subject of that particular case. In the next slides, we will go over the matter of Dan. Next slide, please. Amos chapter 8, verse 14, in the misunderstanding. They that swear by the sin of Samaria and say, as thy God, O Dan, lives, and as the way of BOREH-CREATOR lives, even they shall fall and never rise up again. Now in the Hebrew, all right, it says this. Hanish ba'im, ba'ashmat shomro, wa'amru, ke Elohei Dan, wa ke derek BOREH-CREATOR, wa naflu, wa lo yakumu od. Many go to Amos chapter 8, verse 14, and read that portion and deduce that Dan the tribe will fall and never rise again. The portion, however, is saying those who swear by the sin of Samaria and say, as thy God, O Dan, liveth, and as the way of BOREH-CREATOR liveth, they shall fall and never rise up again. Do you know, brothers and sisters, that the phrase in the Bible from Dan to BOREH-CREATOR that you read of in 1 Samuel chapter 3 was talking about the focal point of the land of Israel, meaning from north to south? That's stated several times in the Bible. Medan ad BOREH-CREATOR, meaning in the English, from Dan to BOREH-CREATOR. That right there is talking about the focal point and distance-wise of the land of Israel. Those are lands. Let us see Samaria, Dan, and BOREH-CREATOR. All right, so remember Amos 8:14, which is used by some to say that that means Dan is no longer going to be in existence and will fall and never rise up again. Let's see, because it mentions Dan, Samaria, and BOREH-CREATOR. Next slide, please. The biblical territories allotted to the people. Joshua chapter 19, verse 2 in this part concerning the tribe of the Simeonites. And they had for their inheritance BOREH-CREATOR with Sheba in Moladah. 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 24. And he bought the hill, and he bought the hill Samaria of Shemir for 2 talents of silver. And he built on the hill and called the name of the city which he built after the name of Shemir, the owner of the hill Samaria. So we know Samaria in Hebrew is said as Shomron. Shomron comes from the word Shemir. Shemir from the word Shamar means to watch or to guard. Shomron in Hebrew means watchman or watch post, all right? Now, on the other side, correct me if I'm wrong about the definition I have for Samaria. It says this: we are able to see that Beersheba and Samaria were both lands in the land of Israel. One was in Simeon, and the other was in the land of Ephraim. Now, 1 Kings chapter 16 is talking about King Ahab, who actually made Samaria his capital. All right, Ahab was the son of Omri, all right, of the northern tribes of the northern kingdom of Israel. So we already see that Beersheba, mentioned in Amos, is a land. Samaria, mentioned in Amos 8:14, is also a land. So let's show the matter of Dan. Next slide, please. The tribe of Dan. Genesis chapter 49 says this: Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Let Dan be an adder in the way that bites the horse of heels, so the rider falleth backward. Now, some people, unfortunately, with the concept saying that Dan must be destroyed or is destroyed, is saying that Dan was never a tribe in the first place. And that's why Genesis 49 says an adder, meaning that he was added on. But what one doesn't understand is that the word add in Hebrew is the word yasap or yasaf. All right? So, wanted to just let that be noted for understanding purposes. The adder that we read of as Shephaphon in Genesis chapter 49, verses 16 and 17, all right, is a certain type of serpent and snake. You can look this up on Google, the adder snake. They find this particular animal within Central Africa. And Jacob was speaking about it. Why would that be if the Bible's a white man's book out of Europe? Why would they be speaking about an animal that's not even found within the lands of the Europeans? But that's a whole nother subject. All right, Joshua chapter 19, verse 47 says the following: and the border of the children of Dan was too straight for them. So the children of Dan went up and fought against Leshem and took it and smote it with the edge of the sword and possessed it and dwelt therein and called Leshem Dan after the name of Dan their father. So when it speaks about their land, because Dan was in the northern part of the land. Now, when you go to the Macmillan Bible Atlas, all right. Now, there's a group on Facebook called Book Gang or Gang Book or something of that sort. That's one of the names of the thing on Facebook. And one of the books that advertises the Macmillan Bible Atlas. The Macmillan Bible Atlas shows the migration of the tribe of Dan from Zorah and Eshtaol and Timnah when they went over through the northern tribes to get to where their northern land became in the land of Leshem, where the ancient Zidonians at one time did live. So this is something to be noted for edification purposes. All right. So here we got Dan having a land, Samaria a land, and Beersheba a land. Those same 3 places mentioned in Amos 8:14. They who swear by the sin of Samaria. The sin of Samaria was the idolatry that King Ahab set up, and say, as thy God, O Dan liveth. The God, the idol God, all right, that Jeroboam set up when you go in the book of 1 Kings chapter 12. And as the way of Beersheba liveth, the way of Beersheba was to take bride from the people. Because when you go into the book of 1 Samuel chapter 8, you read about how the people in Beersheba were getting down with business. So all of these different things, line upon line, precept upon precept, is all there. I thank the Most High for the time, leaving all that chemist stuff alone, man. You understand? We're going to deal with Yisrael. Tom Sheik, next slide, please. Israel and the tribe of Dan. All right, now if you look at one of the part that's like the peach or the pink part on the left-hand side, you see the word Hittites on the top, and the word beneath that says Dan. I'm sorry if it's not too clear for everyone, but it says Dan. All right, and then as you go further, looking at it east, it says Bashan. Then under that, it mentions Remote Galaad. This is where the territory of the tribe of Manasseh was, on the east side of the Jordan. Then south of that was where Gad was, and the south of that is where Reuben was. And then west of where Reuben was where Judah was. So this is just something to be noted for edification purposes. All right. So we also see there was the Hittites, the people of Bashan, pardon me, the Ammonites and the Moabites and the Edomites and the Philistines. All those different nations lived in all in basically the same vicinity. And they all were people of color as well, which is another subject. All right. So then we're looking on the other side where it says the 12 tribes, capital city, city of refuge, and then it says other city. Now, if you look at it, it says Aram on the top, the Arameans. That's where the paternal side of the nation of Israel, Rachel and Leah, came from. Then we look at all of the descendants that came out of the loins of Jacob, Asher, Naphtali, all right, Zebulun, and Issachar. But if you're looking at Naphtali, right above it, where it says the tribe of Naphtali has the word Dan. Then going further south, you see Zebulun, Manasseh, Manasseh again, Ephraim, and Dan. So you see Dan had two different lands. One by where you see the word Joppa or Joppa, and then going north of that. That's where the territory of the tribe of the Danites was. When you go to the South Showtime show, there's a presentation I did called Kemet in Hebrew Society, the True History Thereof. So you can type in BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH, Kemet in Hebrew Society, True History Thereof on YouTube, and you will begin to sit there and see, because in that particular presentation, I went over secular archaeological references about the tribe of Dan's existence in their land. So with that, let's go on to the next slide, please. All right, the matter of Dan in conclusion, because we got 2 slides left. The tribe of Dan, like his brothers, because a lot of brothers, like on Facebook, part of my name says Danite. You understand? And a lot of people inbox me and say, well, why do you say you Dan? Because what my parents told me, and I'll just leave it at that. And then, well, Dan doesn't have a gate when you go in Revelation 7. Let's see what the Most High said. All right. The tribe of Dan, like his brothers, are scattered. The book of Deuteronomy 28, verse 64. The book of Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 17. And the book of Zechariah chapter 7, verse 12 through 13. And other parts speak of the scattering of the tribes of Israel. Malachi chapter 3, verse 6. Malachi 3:6 says that Yah, the Elohim, doesn't change. Therefore, the sons of Yisrael are not consumed. All tribes are going to return. So Malachi 3:6, all right, lets it be noted and understood that none of the tribes of Israel are destroyed. All right, Ezekiel chapter 48 speaks of the return of the Israelites, and all of the tribes are mentioned. Further explanation in a video concerning this matter about the tribe of Dan on YouTube is on my personal YouTube channel called BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH, spelled just as you may see it there. M-O-R-E-H, next word, Y-E-S-H-I-A-H. That is an actual YouTube channel. If you go to my YouTube channel, BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH, and then you will sit there and type in the tribe of Dan, and there are several videos on that getting more in depth in that subject about the tribe of Dan. All right, so next slide, please. Conclusion. It is in due respect to the Most High that I say shalom to all here, and I hope that we learn something from this. I am open to constructive criticism. I like to learn. My contact email is kashubhut@gmail.com. KASHUBHUT@gmail.com. My contact by phone, which is my business phone, is 908-587-4841. That's open for text messages and phone calls. Don't worry about the time or whatever, because it's my cell phone, so nobody else is really going to be answering it. All right, so the contact phone number, as stated, as you see, is 908-587-4841. Last thing to say is this. The next presentation is going to be put in DVD format and sent via computer email to those who are interested, and it is for all who care. If you don't care about anything that's being presented, don't request the info. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Don't waste my time. You understand? It's not to sound nasty or anything of that sort. I want to touch on before I say the word shalom there. Brothers and sisters, I want to state something emphatically. I have a book that's out, right? The name of the book is called Egypt Talk in Writing. Did the Torah come from the culture of Tomeri? All right? If you order the book, thank you for that. If you go through PayPal, there's been several brothers that actually ordered the book through PayPal, and every one of them who ordered it got their book. People who ordered it through Western Union. Everybody who orders it outside of Create Space and outside of Amazon, I take the initiative in my own time to sign the book and mail it. I'm not going to keep your money and sit there and say, like somebody else, Mr. Brother in Politics, and when people making videos like, hey, yo, dude, where is my money, or where is the stuff that I paid you for? The son of Yisrael, Kashub Danite, BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH, is not going out like that by people proving and making videos saying, this is the receipt that I sent to Brother Kashub for the book, and I never got what I was supposed to get. The sons of Yisrael ain't going out like that. Thou shalt not steal. Okay, let that be noted and understood for edification purposes. So after all have been heard, as Ecclesiastes says, fear the Most High, keep his commandments. Shalom.
All right. I want to thank you, Kashub, for dedicating your time to the people. Another powerful lesson, another very informative lesson. And I want to make this clear. I ordered Kashub's book. All right. And it made it here in 4 business days. Everybody else I know that ordered Kashub's book made it here, ground delivery in the time allotted. Okay. Now, if you claim this one mystery individual that you ordered a book from BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH, please provide your proof of payment. If you Western Union it, if you paid through PayPal, however you claim you paid electronically, and there's proof of that transaction. Take a screenshot and please submit that, because I don't believe you. I know BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH, that's not how he operates. I also want to show the family really quick while I have their attention BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH's website. First, this is his YouTube channel that he mentioned earlier. BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH. You'll see that avatar and icon. Got a bunch of great videos and lessons as you see here. Also, this is BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH's website, Danite Publications. He's got a home page, a media page. You can order the book there. He's got his own publication company. That's his logo, and that's what you'll see. He's got some literature section. He's also got video and media. The literature section goes over his latest book, Egypt Talk and Writing. Did the Torah come from the culture of Tomeri? I have this book. I'm in the 4th chapter. Great reading. I'm taking it on my lunch breaks, taking notes, and just absorbing the information. Great, great book. He's got some videos and media as well. All of that you'll find right here. And then his contact information. If you're interested and you've taken the time and you're interested in maybe publishing your own book, feel free to contact BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH, and just maybe, if the subject and topic is righteous, you can have your book published with Danite Publications with the assistance of somebody that's done it themselves. So I thank BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH. It's always tradition over here. If he had any further closing statements, I ask that he say it now. If not, we say good night. God bless. Yah bless.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Hello.
Yeah, we're still on, good brother.
Yeah, I wanted to
Please do.
read something in the book of Tehillim or Psalms 117 verse 1 and 2. only, all right? And it says the following. Hallelujah, praise Yah, all ye nations, Lord him, all ye peoples. For his mercy is great towards us, and the truth of Yah endures forever. So the truth of the Most High doesn't die. And with that, I say, Torah Rabbah for the time and Shalom.
All right. On behalf of BOREH-CREATOR-ISAIAH, also known as Kashub the Danite, I'm Basim on behalf of Global Media. Make sure you check out the upload on this channel. We have the Mighty Hebrew, Hellraiser, and Priest Danyala tomorrow night, and they are putting America on trial and exposing over 100 years of lynching. All the information you need to know for that event is found on this channel. Good night. God bless. Yah bless. Shalom.